So we have discussed the 4 forms of governance. So we have discussed the hierarchical model, we have discussed the markets model, we have discussed the networks model, and we have discussed the partnerships model. Now we discuss the problems that we face, or people face, decision makers face, when they follow the network or partnership model. So many of these problems are linked to how we work in the 21st century. So there are many different stakeholders and how to bring them together and talk to them and come to a decision. So all these problems we will discuss here. So there are 3 main problems related to these 2 models. The first one, bringing all the stakeholders together to decide and agree on a decision. Second is deciding who will pay what. So what portion of a project or a decision is going to be paid by whom. And the thirdly, implementing the decision. So how the decision will be implemented. So we discuss these 3 problems in detail now. So first problem, how to make or bring stakeholders together and unite them on a decision. The first issue in this case is knowing who the stakeholders are. So many times we don't really know who the stakeholders are. And because everyone is interconnected, it's a global village. So there are maybe hundreds of different stakeholders in one decision. So it's very difficult to bring them all together and to know them and to convince them coming to a decision. And then, of course, when there are so many different stakeholders, they have different interests. And the interest of one person or one stakeholder doesn't correspond with the interest of another stakeholder. So if you make one decision, one stakeholder is happy. If you make another decision, another one is happy. So all cannot be happy at the same time. So it's very difficult to bring them together. And those who are unhappy, of course, they will leave. And so the intention of bringing all of them together will be lost. So take an example. For example, if we want to establish a school in a village, so who are the stakeholders? Of course, the parents are the stakeholders, the children in the village are the stakeholders, the department, education department is a stakeholder. But are nearby villages also stakeholders? Because if we are going to establish school in this village, of course, 2 or 3 villages around them will not get the school. So their children will have to come to this school, to this village. So they are also stakeholders. Then, of course, if there are any private schools in the vicinity, they are also stakeholders because their teachers may leave, their students may leave. So again, they are also stakeholders. We can also argue that all the provinces are stakeholders because sometimes when you are trying to establish a school, the same money can be spent on providing computers to 10 different schools. So should we establish one school in a village, or should we provide 10 or 20 computers to 10 or 20 villages in different areas of the province? So again, they are also stakeholders in a way. So this is one of the problems when you are trying to establish the network or partnership models. The second issue in this is who is going to pay. So when the stakeholders agree on the decision, it's very difficult. The next step is that asking them to pay for it. So everybody tries to pay less and thinks that others should pay more. And when they are asked, somebody is asked, one stakeholder is asked to pay more, they try to leave, or their support for the decision goes down. Then, of course, there is the issue of whether the budget is or the decision leads to it's a front-loaded or back-loaded, meaning by most of the expenditure is going to spend at the start of the project or immediately after the decision, or it is spent at the end of the project or 2 years after the decision. This also makes the decision difficult. Then there are stakeholders who agree to pay, but later on they don't pay. So how do you deal with them? So all these different problems come into surface. Then of course there is different stakeholder is the local government stakeholder, or they should pay more, or provincial government should pay more, or federal government should pay more, or businessmen, farmers. So all these different people who are involved in a project, who is going to pay what? And third is implementation. And as they say, devil is in the details. Implementation is long term, it's very difficult, and there are many problems which are not foreseen at the time of decision, when decision is made, but when you are implement a decision, you come to these problems. So you get all the stakeholders together and they come to a decision, but when you are implementing, maybe 2 months after that, you have to again bring all the stakeholders together, because you need to come to another decision, because the circumstances are not the same as they were before. And if some stakeholders are not invited, they feel ignored and stops supporting the decision. And of course, some of the bureaucrats, some of the decision makers who were there at the time of decision may have left when that decision is being implemented. So down the line, they don't know why this decision was made and how it was to be implemented. So again, then there can be a clash between the new decision makers, those who are implementing it, with the stakeholders who have initially decided what is to be done. So all these different problems come when we are dealing with partnership and network models.